And just like that, it's Friday. Welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Russ Kane. Another week. Who would have thought that a party that the snobberati had dismissed as a joke is now possibly going to be the actual opposition in the United Kingdom. What an incredible week. What an incredible week. And if they'd have started a bit earlier, who knows where it could have led. Anyway, let's just steer clear of that. You know him. You love him. He is, to put it bluntly, fearless. He says what's on his mind and he minds what he says. I just made that up. I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mr. First Night himself. Mr. Can I Get You a Program? Jonathan Baz.
Russ, good afternoon. And I hope you can hear me clearly because I've got audio issues at my end. Entirely down to me.
Perfectly marvelous. And it looks like it's so weird because it's changed your Savile Row suit into a New York City Billy Joel t-shirt.
Well, there we go. Well, you know, times are hard.
Yes, I understand that. I understand. Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
I know. Right. Okay. Welcome.
Lots to talk about today.
I'm agog.
We really have the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is a fantastic segue into my first review, which was a gorgeous concert that I attended. It wasn't entirely theatrical in Dublin last week. The music of Ennio Morricone.
Yes. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do. That one.
Never heard it played as well ever.
No, ever.
You just
uncanny, isn't it?
I'll blow a little bit of smoke up my own rear end. I was the last journalist to be granted an interview with the maestro Morricone.
Wow.
And that was back in 2019.
Where was that? Where did the interview take place?
Interview took place in his apartment in Rome.
Beautiful.
Took a long while to set up.
I bet.
And the man was incredibly modest. And it was an absolute privilege. The music that night was played by the Dublin, the RTE Concert Orchestra from Ireland, played in the National Concert Hall of Dublin, conducted by the very talented maestro Anthony Gabriele. His first time conducting Morricone, their first time playing it. It was gorgeous. And if ever a concert of that program comes around again, I can't recommend it highly enough. The music is magical.
Excellent. So did they do all the music from all the movies? And I've probably forgotten the majority of movies that he did.
I scored 5,000 movies. So the answer to your question is no. But it was the good, the bad, and the ugly. It was the Untouchables. It was all of the spaghetti westerns. Once Upon a Time in America. Once Upon a Time in the West. Cinema Paradiso. The Mission. The big ones.
I forgot. Wow,
the life and times of David Lloyd George.
Mercifully, I've forgotten that one. Don't fancy that at all. Jesus. Quick question coming up. Quick question, because I love it to be interactive. This is coming in from Spain. What does Jonathan think of Andrew Lloyd Webber's show Sherlock Holmes? Will it work? I didn't even know he was doing that. Okay.
Short answer, honest answer, not a clue. Let's wait until press night, and then I'll be happy to give my opinion.
Okay. Wow, that's brave.
Let me stick with the good, and a very brief nod to a show that I got invited to, which was an immersive experience of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, which has been packing the crowds in at a small venue. It's amazing what they're doing with space in the City of London ever since the pandemic has freed up an awful lot of office space. And this is a 2-hour interactive, immersive experience of Jeff Wayne's rather spectacular composition of 50 years ago.
No.
Horrendous.
Half a century. He wrote it half a century ago. Holy moly.
It's good fun.
Wow.
It's not for those who are mobility impaired. I was there with a pal of similar age, similar fitness.
42.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's not for little kids. For the grown-ups who remember the music, it's gorgeous. For the teenagers and 20-somethings, It's good fun. So if you're looking for something to do and you know the music and you've got a bit of fitness, it's a good laugh.
When you say a little bit of fitness, what are you doing? You're fighting Martians, or what's the deal here?
Well, luckily you're spared one-to-one encounters with the Martians.
Thank God for that.
You are required to climb through a window as you're going through the devastated houses of Surrey. No broken glass, I'd hasten to add.
Sorry.
And then slide down a stainless steel escape chute as you make your escape from the Martians.
Right.
It's a mixture of projections, live action, a handful of actors bring some of the scenes to life or death. There's some gorgeous virtual reality stuff that you pop a headset on 3 times as you trundle around, including Forever, My Life Will Be Forever. Forever Autumn was the name of that song.
Well, I don't know the work at all. The only thing I know about is dun, 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 dun. That's all I know.
You know, that is the second show that you've given a musical summary to.
Oh, well, there you go.
I was never. I'll be honest with you,
I was never a fan of it.
I'll say the words and you hum the tune. Oh. This is perfection.
It's incredible, isn't it?
So that was the good. Let's slip down into disappointingly, sadly, the bad. Which was a show. We have yet to come to the ugly. This was a musical called Marie Curie, currently playing at the Charing Cross Theatre, which a musical that really comes from the best of intentions, because Marie Curie's life was remarkable. This musical's international pedigree is a United Nations in itself. Marie Curie was a Polish woman, moved to France, of course. This musical has been written by 2 Koreans, and now it's being performed in England. And it has received considerable critical acclaim, performed in its native tongue across Southeast Asia, where apparently the crowds have gone bonkers for it. Here, I think the crowds have to be bonkers to enjoy it.
Oh dear.
It's, bless them, it's a hardworking cast. There are a couple of good tunes, but the lyrics are very, very flat. They haven't translated well. Even if you're going to tell a grim story, and Marie Curie is remarkable. She won 2 Nobel Prizes. You know, she discovered that radium could have fantastic properties in addressing cancer. And of course, she herself died of radiation sickness. So there's a lot there in what Marie Curie achieved in her life. That's an understatement. But it needs a clever person to write songs about her life that can bring in at times wit, at times irony, at times melancholy. And sadly, this show has none of them, apart from sadly a bit too much boredom. And like as I put in my review, like a handful of the audience members around me, the show, at least in its English iteration, should be quietly put to sleep with dignity.
Oh God, was it? I'm curious. We see not everything. All right, hang on one sec. I'm curious because not everything, Jonathan, as you know, translates. You can't translate everything literally because it loses something, which is why Herbert Kreutzmann was such a genius.
I've lost a lot of your sound, Russ. You've broken up on me.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's happening. No idea why. Was it originally written in Korean and it just translated?
It was originally written in Korean. The producers asked the musical director, who's a very, very talented young woman who's directing the band and has arranged the tunes. And my gosh, does she know her music inside out and back to front. But the program they invited her to translate the lyrics, and the program suggests that she's got no theatre writing credit to her name. I won't name her because it's not fair. And sadly, the lyrics are just flat.
See, here's the thing. Excuse me, bloody virus. I'm sure that Jonathan, you might agree with this. It's no good just going to Google Translate. I'm not saying she did for 1 minute, but it's no good doing that and just expecting that the from Korean, it goes to English and it works out. What you have to do with these things, and please correct me if I've got it wrong, is you have to rework it so that in its language, in the language in which it's being performed, it stands on its own. It's no good just saying, well, I translated it from Korean or from French or from German and it's flat. Of course, it would, it would be. It would have no more emotion than Google Translate, or
But,
Duolingo. It
and
needs an artist.
The young woman who's done the translation has clearly studied musical instruments for many years, and gosh, it shows. But equally, I think to be a writer, you need to have done something similar, to have at your fingertips an understanding of what any particular story is all about, and then to get to the nitty gritty and find those words that can make the audience laugh or cry or think. It's a skill, and it's not there in this show.
What you need to do, I suppose, is to take I'm just thinking as a writer, this is what I would do. You take the intent of that song, and then you would remold it, kind of repurpose it, as opposed to just doing a literal translation, which isn't going to work.
I don't know how she translated it, but as I say, it doesn't work.
It's a shame, because obviously, judging from what you're saying, she's very talented.
Well, clearly, yes. Gosh, she knows her music. Okay. Let's move on from the bad to the ugly.
Triple O.
Then we will get better. Then we will end on more of a high.
Oh, thank God for that.
But the ugly, recent weeks have seen a couple of television shows from the late 20th century make their way onto London stage. One was 40 Towers, which we've talked about.
Yeah,
and
which you
the
loved.
one that I'm about
you
to
loved
speak
it.
about, indeed, is Boys from the Black Stuff, which was genius television back in the early 1980s. A really grim look at the impact of the economics of that time, particularly on Liverpool. A 6-part series, each episode devoted to one particular character of these boys from the Black Stuff, the Black Stuff being the tarmac that got laid on the roads, and how these guys were ducking and diving, making a living, avoiding the social security snoopers who were checking up on them, making sure they weren't earning undeclared income, eking out an existence in tough times with some outstanding acting in the telly, on the telly back in the 1980s. Bernard Hill as Yossa Hoos, Michael Angelis as Chrissy, his wife Julie Walters. Gosh,
I forgot that.
The cast of that 6-part, 6-hour telly series was magnificent. James Graham, who to his credit is usually an inspired playwright. I've not criticized a word that he's written until this, has taken the telly series and boiled it down into a 2-hour play. Started off in Liverpool, and fair play, it got a lot of love in Liverpool, but it was always destined to.
It would do, yeah.
Come down to London, and I've got to be honest, for those of us in the audience, and there were many who remember the TV series, it don't come close.
Oh.
And the reason why I've marked this one down so harshly is some people said to me, Jonathan, why have you given it 1 star?
Oh, wow.
And I've given it 1 star because James Graham has taken something. He hasn't just written something of his own that's a bit disappointing. Fair enough. That would be 2 stars, possibly 3, likely 2. But he's actually taken something that was beautiful and, in my opinion, trashed it. And to have done that, I think is a great shame. Because the genius that existed in Alan Bleasdale's carefully worded 6-hour scripts that Philip Saville directed was gorgeous. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't condense into a 2-hour.
What's he done to make it worth a Baz 1 star? What you see?
You don't get the build up. You don't. He jumps from character to character. He gets all the big lines in that you remember. You may remember Yossa in his confession with a priest, a Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest says that his name is Dan or Daniel something or other, and Yossa says, "I'm desperate, Dan," and that's That's one of the immortal lines of the series, which James has sort of bent over backwards to include, along as Yossa's famous "Give us a job." But it's all just so rushed and so squeezed, and there's no richness. And that series that made you laugh and made your hearts break, the magic of it lay in the richness of what we were watching. Now, Russ, I have to say, as I'm watching you, you were possibly frozen right now, and that worries me.
Wow, you've frozen on me, Jonathan. I have
yeah, you froze on me, and you've frozen again. There's a lot of freezing going on.
That's harsh.
You're back.
So is that going to close early, do you reckon?
I don't know. It's on.
No,
It's
I
on
don't
at
know.
the garage
God
now.
only knows. Yeah, I know. I don't understand. It's fine from my absolutely all the normal stuff. It's not the machinery. It's just who knows. So you think it's going to close early? Could do.
I don't know. It's now left from the Nationals going to the West End at the Garrick. I mean, what's interesting, music from the 1980s is piped into the auditorium before and after the show, before the first half, before the second half, as everyone's taking their seats after the interval, the song that's coming out the loudspeakers is the Jams. That's entertainment. And I found myself thinking,
irony.
If only. Oh, not off. You
see, it's interesting. Not half pop, because all right, out of Unit 1, don't forget your Brentford nylons. Chrissy Richards in Spain is making a good point. I love that program, which you were talking about, Boys in the Band from the Black Star. Don't make programs like that now, pretty much. And then Graham Pack, there you go. You see Horses for Courses. We saw Boys from the Black Stuff the other week and enjoyed it. Weird. Okay, well, he liked it. You didn't. And you're our theatre critic, and there we are.
You wouldn't go looking to make a stage play of The Godfather.
I would bet you somewhere people have written tunes. I bet you someone has suggested, let's do a musical of The Godfather. You wouldn't drag me to see it, because you can't. It's like drawing a moustache on the Mona Lisa or something. You just don't want to do it. You don't.
But now, let us claw our way out of this nadir of theatricality into a couple of more uplifting pieces of theatre.
Oh, thank God.
One of which was a play called Accolade, which I had the delight to see this week at the Theatre Royal Windsor, a Bill Kenwright production. It plays for one more day in Windsor, and then it's on a brief, short tour of the home counties, the southern counties of England. Yeah. It's a play it's 75 years old, written by a chappie called Emlyn Williams. It's about a writer who's knighted for his services to literature, but also in his private life likes to indulge in a few proclivities of the less than savory nature.
I like
a less than savory nature.
Okay.
And the play explores how one of the orgies that this chappie has attended and his conduct has not only been amoral, it also transpires has been illegal, and he has committed a crime.
Like him.
And the play is all about the impact of this potentially being revealed, about this knighthood, this knight, this literary great, his darker side being revealed to the public, impact on family, impact on friends. It's very well performed. Aidan Callaghan plays Aidan Callaghan plays the hypocritical, misogynist bastard of a writer.
You didn't like him then?
Honeysuckle Weeks plays his much suffering wife, Rona.
Oh, I like her. She was in. Please tell me I got the right one, from Foyle's War.
I believe so.
She was the driver. She was Foyle's. She was great in that.
She is. To be fair, they're all great. Yeah. Directed very well by Sean Mathias, who has an awful lot to do with Bill Kenwright Company and that theatre in particular. As I say, it's on tour now. Google it, Accolade, and it makes for a charming night of theatre. A little bit of
here's the thing, Jonathan. It's unsavory material, and yet it's a charming night. How does that?
Why?
How are you squaring that circle?
Okay, it's a troubling subject matter. There's no pornography on stage. There's no nudity. There's no foul language. Clearly, there has been pornographic, for want of a better word, immoral sexual behavior that has gone on that forms the driving force of the play. But the acting is lovely. The dialogue is of its period. The costume is of its period.
When's it set? So 75 years. My maths is crap. So when was it set? 50s?
Just after, is it after the war? Yes, it's post-war.
Okay.
Post-war?
Yeah, it'll be early 50s, late 40s.
Years ago. Yeah.
Late 40s then. Late 40s.
It's just good drama. Nice. It's it's a clever. Not all stories are happy, clappy. You can have, Hamlet is all about a family full of it's a tale full of murder and revenge and ghastliness.
That's any family, really.
But done well, indeed, any family done well. It's a great night's entertainment.
This is we see. It's very interesting. I'm seeing a thread here. Is that the stuff that you've reviewed? They've just everything to do with a book or to do with theatre is about the story. If the story doesn't hang together, if the story doesn't propel you along, if you don't feel invested in the characters, doesn't matter what you do, it won't work. You can be a genius writer, but if it's not an interesting, engaging, involving storyline, that is the beginning and end of it all. You can have the best sets and everything else. It won't work.
Indeed. As my very good friend, Kane, Don Black, said to me, as Hal Prince said to him, the three main ingredients of a musical are the book, and the book.
Totally so.
Indeed.
Totally
that
so.
Being said, of course, Marie Curie, which has a fantastic story underlying it, the story of her life, sadly, that is a good book that has been wasted. Or maybe it's a good life story that has not been fashioned into a credible book in the English language. That's probably a better way of putting it. So yes, Hal Prince's words still ring true.
Yeah, well, it is. That's it. That's it, and that's the goal of any writer. If there isn't a really compelling story, there doesn't matter how clever you are, intellectual, whatever, ain't gonna work. It'll never work.
My final play to speak about today is absolute excellence of drama and of entertainment, but probably makes Accolade looks like a singing and jazz hand dance musical full of comedy.
Claire Sweeney. Yeah, go on.
I'm talking about Harold Pinter's Wake Up, Russ, Don't Go to Sleep Immediately. I'm talking about Harold Pinter's The Caretaker, which is on at Chichester for a short run until 13th of July. It is outstanding.
Okay.
Pinter mixes theatre of the absurd with some gritty realism. Gosh, listening out to the dialogue for this play set off the Gold Hawk Road, and it's like listening to the A to Z. So many references to London here and there, but even more than in The Gatekeeper.
Hey!
See what I did there? But it's a gripping story of a disgraceful, disgusting old derelict tramp who really is a nasty piece of work, who's brought in off the street by one brother. And we then a little while later really meet the other brother who are responsible for the bedsit into which they've dragged this tramp. In McDiarmid, I believe he's close to 80, plays the tramp, a man called Davis. Aston, the kindly brother who's brought Davis in off the streets, is played by Adam Gillan. And Jack Riddiford plays the other brother, Mick. Ian McDiarmid is fantastic. And I guess I'm not going to talk about the plot of The Caretaker because it kind of defies explanation. It's a bit mind-boggling and it really is hard to boil down into 2 or 3 minutes. But The Caretaker was the first play that Pinter wrote that achieved commercial success. played, I think, for the best part of or more than a year in the West End when it opened in London back in 1960. Okay. And listen closely if you're lucky enough to go and see it, and reflect that Galton and Simpson's Steptoe and Son was to air on the BBC 2 years later. And when you listen to Pinter's dialogue, you can hear how he has impacted on Galton and Simpson. Gosh, I even referenced Peter Cook and Dudley Moore's Derek and Clive in my review. Because
me, says hello.
The dialogue between these three different guys is so well crafted. Ian McDiarmid, I think, is also channeling Albert Steptoe, Wilfred Bramble in his 80-year-old disgusting, racist, vile tramp who's really quite evil and manipulative, and how the power shifts between these three brothers as the play evolves is done superbly. Justin Audebert, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, he's just taken over as artistic director at Chichester. I went expecting high things. I was very, very pleased with what I saw. The chappie who plays Aston, who remind myself, Adam Gillan. Adam Gillan, we learned towards the end of the first half, Aston has been subject in his youth to horrendous ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. Think the Jack Nicholson character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He has this 5 or 10 minute monologue, and he has the audience in the palm of his hands as we learn about the suffering that he endured as a child. And then in the second half, when this evil bastard tramp manipulates this guy with the confession that he's given in the first half, it's heartbreaking. And this is a play that takes you from brilliant comedy to deep, tragic pathos, and it's performed fantastically. I can't recommend it highly enough. It is Pinter. Pinter is not everyone's cup of tea. I get that, but you won't find Pinter better than this. I think I wrapped up my review by saying this is Pinter done to perfection.
Wow. And coming from you, that is some serious praise. It's interesting you linking 2 years, the gap of 2 years between the brilliant Galton and Simpson, Steptoe and Son, set in Shepherd's Bush, and The Caretaker. When you will know this, but not everybody will, but I'm sure you will, JB. When they did the first reading and run-throughs for Steptoe and Son, don't forget, Harry H. Corbett was at the Royal Shakespeare Company. Wilfred Bramble was an actor of great renown. And Galton and Simpson was sitting there, and it wasn't gelling at all. It wasn't working. Everything was falling flat. And then either Ray or Alan and Galton or Simpson went over to the main protagonists, Harry H. Corbett and Wilfred Bramble, and said, you do know this is a comedy, don't you? And they looked and went, oh, because they thought it was a serious Pinteresque drama. These were both great actors. I mean, you know, they come across as the way they do, but that's because they were fantastic actors. And once they realized that it was a comedy, although a great level of tragedy, a subtextual level of tragedy, the fact that Harold could never leave his father, he was trapped in this awful world, the whole thing worked brilliantly, but it had to be explained to them. And the other thing it's always amazed me is when you heard Wilfred Bramble speak or be interviewed, he was he had a cut crystal voice. It was nothing like you expected whatsoever. Yeah, it was, that's acting for you.
And I have to say, Ian McDiarmid, because this chappie Davis, the old man who gets referred to as the caretaker a number of times through the play, he puts the right level of inflection and menace or desperation or pleading into every single line of his text. He leads the drama, that character.
Am I going round the bend, which is a very short journey for me these days? Wasn't Ian McDiarmid, is he Star Wars Ian McDiarmid? Isn't he play the Emperor? He's the Emperor. He's the emperor.
I couldn't tell you what character he played.
No, he's
I was
the
never a
emperor.
big.
He's the emperor.
Yep.
Who
He's
gets
80
more and more like that before they completely screwed it up and it's now unwatchable woke crap. But it was great. The first three were fantastic.
And I just have to say, it is brilliant. If you've never discovered Pinter, this could almost be one to go and see, because bits of it are really upsetting, but bits of it are laugh out loud funny. It's worth the trip to the South Coast.
It's interesting you say that, and I've got to let you go because a certain blonde someone is waiting in the wings. But it's interesting you say that, because when you think of some of the great comedy, Steptoe and Son, which my father liked, I always found very depressing, but because I just found it sad. But also you think Tony Hancock, running throughout everything underneath Tony Hancock was tragedy, really. Again, I thought it was very, very Pinteresque, the way that was. No, Graham, I doubt it. I think JB is wearing it because he saw the show in New York. That's my guess. That's why.
You know, Russ, I think you're absolutely right. Some of those brilliant sitcoms. Look at the misery of Leonard Rossiter's Rigsby in Rising Dan.
Yes.
You know, or the loveless marriage of George and Mildred, or Basil and Sybil Fawlty. The best comedy really comes out of misery.
That's why people like my stand-up show. For you, it's a show. For me, it's an hour and a half of therapy. It's what it is. Right, Jonathan, it's been great. Thank you. What a buffet, from the good to the indigestible. I'm not going to keep that analogy going because it's ridiculous. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That has been fantastic. That is the great Mr. Jonathan Baz. He's never at home. I wonder if he ever sees the family. Probably not. That's why he's called Jonathan First Night Baz. Now, somewhere in London is a trailer with stylists, makeup artists, hair artists. It's a pantechnicon, really, that arrives every Friday in a certain part of London, secret location, to prepare for the pulchritudinous presence of our wonderful media, film, television, and all things visual, Chantal Rickards.
Good morning. Yes, I've just jumped out of my trailer that's parked outside my front door in Wandsworth.
Well, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, hundreds of people standing around me waiting to powder my nose at any
Is there a lot of people? What I notice on a Friday, well, I get reports from your neighbours, is lots of people with clipboards. They're all running around looking very busy. They've got little earphones in. They're busy talking.
Oh, no. That was the good old days when I was a producer.
Are they allowed to look?
My life was.
Are they allowed to talk to you before you talk to them, or is that another rule you've got on set?
No, I've told you that the person who is most important at setting the atmosphere for the day is the person in makeup. So it doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl, but they are the person that you have to make sure will settle your talent, make them feel at ease, make them feel gorgeous, make them feel wonderful, because that will set the whole tone for the day. So they're vitally important on set.
They are. Coco. Now, here's a weird thing. You know, every Saturday morning, I meet my two chums, Ray Gelato, who just finished a wonderful run at the Pizza Express, Dean Street, sold out every show. Couldn't get a seat. It was absolutely sensational. And also Colin Vaines, a film producer of enormous note. And guess who? Colin's so tired of the noise in Soho, which is deafening. He's not moving, but he needed a studio, so he's got this studio. Yeah. Guess who he's sharing a house with?
I have no idea.
Nina and Grant.
No,
you couldn't make it up.
They live in the same.
He went out to change the bins. He went out to change the bins or something, and there's Nina and Grant. I said, of every home in the entirety of London, You can't be in the same place. They went, I am. What are the chances?
I think
It's just bizarre, isn't it?
we should all live in a big commune together somewhere.
Oh, God. Yeah, you'd last about 3 days with me before you stuck a kitchen knife in my shoulder blades. Be very nice. At least the catering would be sensational. Let's be honest about it.
Well, very true. Very true.
That would be fantastic. I just couldn't get over it. He said, "Oh yes, Grant." I said, "What?" Yeah,
No.
weird. I forgot to tell you. Anyway, what had come across your purview, Screen Queen OBE?
Well, the first thing I'm going to mention is something from Apple TV, which I know that you rarely take out a.
I've never taken it.
You've never taken. Listen,
No, I've never seen Apple TV ever. Never seen it.
Just get the freebie week.
I know you keep saying that, but you know I've got a head like a sieve. I'll forget to cancel it. Then you can't get out of it.
All right.
Anyway, that's my fear.
Well, of course, that's what they want.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Sure, that's what they want.
But if you were clever about it, you could just tell the bank in advance to cancel it after a week or cancel it after a month. And then you
are so smart. God, I've had a tenth of your brains. Anyway, go on.
Oh God!
So it's on Apple TV.
Just going back down through the dusty corridors of your brain. Do you remember a film called Presumed Innocent?
No.
Oh, come on!
I don't. I remember the title. I couldn't tell you what it's about.
Harrison Ford as a lawyer.
Yeah. He's a lawyer. Yeah.
Does this not mean anything to you?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Was there a skull that he lifted off a thing, and then a great stone ball came whizzing towards him?
No, none of that. No, he is. Well, the clue's in the title. He's a lawyer,
right?
And is basically you've definitely on his side right from the get-go, right. And then he goes to the murder of one of his colleagues who happens to be a beautiful young woman, and then in fact he ends up on the wrong side of the dock, having to defend himself from a murder charge against this former colleague in the DA's office in Chicago. Does that not ring a bell at all?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, it was one of Harrison's.
I've undoubtedly seen it because I used to love all of those sort of 80s and 90s films. I thought they were great, all those courtroom dramas. I love them. They don't do them anymore.
Okay. So from a Scott Turow book. Okay. The book was terrific. Then the film was terrific. And now, 34 years after the original film, we have got the new 8-part series on Apple using the same title, Presumed Innocent, but this time with movie actor Jake Gyllenhaal. And it's
I like him, apart from in Roadhouse, which was garbage, but he's great.
And it's his very, very first TV outing, really. Certainly is his first TV outing, you know, as a major movie star.
Yeah.
And I think it's terrific. There were only 2 episodes to watch so far. Otherwise, I would have blitzed them all over the last few days. But I did 2 back to back yesterday, and I'm really enjoying it. And actually, he's very different to the original Harrison Ford character. And I think it's going to be extremely good. It's produced by David E. Kelly, J.J. Abrams, and Jake. Who, funny enough, I was talking about this week because Jake's makeup artist is a BAFTA member. And so we sat at BAFTA earlier.
Oh, was that the person you were photographed with?
It was. It was.
Yes. You see,
yeah.
I am stalking you, but on digitally, not in real life, because I haven't got the time, to be honest. But I went digitally, you know. See.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was catching up on all the news from the makeup room that.
Please tell me Jake Gyllenhaal's nice, because I'm a big fan. There's not many actors that I'm big fans of. He is absolutely one of them. I love his stuff. I like it. I like his sister's work as well. Not a joke. Maggie Gyllenhaal. I think they're really talented and varied and good. I think they're very good.
They're a very talented family. Their father was a movie director. And, you know, sort of well-educated, clever. The father the parents, particularly when Jake was growing up, because he started acting very young, but they were very, very careful about what they let him do and what he couldn't do and how long he was allowed to be away on a movie set. And I think he grew up as a really sensible young man. And he's made really interesting choices about his movie career. He hasn't just gone for a ton of money. but I think he's got such brilliant range, and sometimes he can be really, Nightcrawler. He was.
Oh, Nightcrawler! I was about to say Nightcrawler. What a jerk! I mean, he's just horrible in that.
Intimidatory in that, and really sort of on the sleazy, nasty side of life. But God played it well.
Yeah, I mean, no moral in that part. He had no moral compass whatsoever, and you want to like him because it's Jake Gyllenhaal. You think, I hate you. You're a horrible human being. Horrible.
I think it's got good reviews so far. I don't know anybody who's yet watched more than the first 2 episodes, but the feeling is that this is pretty good. A lot of people already know the story, but because the original film was 34 years ago, there will be a ton of people who've never seen the movie, don't know the book, and will be coming to this fresh. And it starts incredibly well. Jake is at the top, or the character is at the top of his career in the DA's office, and then it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. But of course, he's made enemies along the way, both with people who are criminals, but also in the DA's office. And then there's a change of, the district attorney is a political appointee, and then suddenly there's a change of political appointee at the top, and then there's a whole load of sort of local government politics that comes into play. It's cleverly done. It's a beautifully written book, and I think this is going to be great. I shall certainly be watching this time next week.
Here's a question for you, because you are the guru of all things Hollywood. I never understood why they remade Roadhouse. Roadhouse was of its time with Patrick Swayze. Roadhouse, if you're a Family Guy fan. This remake with Conor McGregor, I'm saying nothing in case I ever meet him, because he will kill me just by looking at me. I thought I gave up. I just thought, I can't watch this anymore. It was just cliche-ridden nonsense. It was
okay.
And he's such a talented guy. And, if they'd put Jason Statham in it, I would have it's a Jason Statham movie. We get it. We know what it's like McDonald's. You know what you're going to get with Jason Statham. Right. The Jason Statham flick. Fantastic. It's not going to be Harold Pinter going back to Jonathan Baz. It's unlikely, right? He's not going to play the caretaker or the birthday party or anything. But Jake Gyllenhaal, who's very cerebral, it's just odd. I just thought he needed the money or something. I don't know. I don't know how to persuade him.
I wasn't going to talk about it, but now that you've mentioned remakes, I went to see The Fall Guy this week, which is the movie that came out. Actually, it's been out for a few weeks. It's not on in many cinemas any longer.
It's on telly now.
Needed to see it with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. He's no Lee Majors, but actually it's done in a rather playful, joyful way. Yeah. The first third is a bit messy, and then it sort of slowly finds its pace. And if you like movies about movies, and you like movies and seeing the inside story of what goes on a set and how action stunts are put together, actually it's really interesting. I mean, clearly I love the movie business, so I really enjoyed all of those scenes of how they were trying to create the stunts and the stunt list itself in the credits, because I always stay to watch the credits in movies.
Yes, I know.
Oh my god. Yes, you
can we go? No, please, Chantal, can we no
come
on,
have to watch all those.
I don't want to see who was a third wrangler and did the catering. I don't care. It's none of my business. Here's a question for you. It's a serious question. It's coming out of nowhere. 2 recent films, only because you've opened the door. 2 recent big films.
Yeah.
One was Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And the other is the one you've just mentioned, The Fall Guy. Okay. Yeah. There's 2 critics that I follow closely because I think they are absolutely on point. One is a Scottish guy called The Critical Drinker on YouTube. I think he's brilliant, the way he deconstructs stuff. And the other one is his American counterpart, which sometimes he hooks up with, called Nerdtronic, Nerdtronic, Nerdtronic. Again, really, really clever, understanding, taking it apart with a scalpel and telling you why it works or doesn't work. Now, both of these guys, who I follow avidly because they're very interesting, have said the following. And I asked Colin Vaines, film producer, about the same thing the other week.
Yeah.
Both of these films were good. Furiosa, the Mad Max thing, and The Fall Guy, they were both entertaining films. Nothing wrong with them. Not Academy Award stuff, thank God, but entertaining, well made, good action scenes, good cast, everything going well. They have both died on their arse at box office.
I know.
Both of them.
It's been a really, really bad summer for big box office movies.
So my question is, there you go. They make 2 decent films, big budget.
Yeah.
Are people fed up with? It's a several part question because I've thought about it, but I'd love your view because your view is important. Mine's irrelevant. Are people out of love with the cinema? Has it got too expensive, or have people, thanks to bloody COVID, thought, you know what, I'll wait a couple of weeks and I'll watch it at home on TV with my dinner on my lap? Where are we with this?
I think it's a tiny bit of everything. I think there are lots of forces coming into play. The pipeline from LA has dried up in the last couple of years because of all the different strikes. So there are a lot of things that there's a sort of blockage in the pipeline. But the stuff that has been coming out are the big budget movies that they started years ago and are just coming out at the other end of the sausage factory. And they're simply okay. They're not brilliant movies.
No.
So that's the first problem.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think there are credit crunches everywhere, and everybody's, looking at their pennies and thinking, well, maybe we better not go. Having said that, I think the cinema is still incredibly good value. If you book online, you can save money. If you take out a subscription, you can save a ton of money. Once you've watched 2 movies a month, then actually you paid for everything pretty much. So you can go once a week if you want to, or you could go twice a week if you wanted to. So
I'm wondering. Yeah, I get that. That's right. And most people don't, because they say, I'm not paying 20 quid a ticket, and then I get a glass of wine for 300 million pounds and a packet of crisps for 75 quid. I mean, it's all matters. I'm also wondering if people are tired, and it's creeped into the theatre, which infuriates me, as most things do these days. But people sitting on their bloody phones or texting or talking. So you're sitting, you've paid good money, you've got off your backside, you've traveled there, whatever, and you've got all these little lights. I mean, it's not a Taylor Swift concert. We're trying to watch something here,
I have to say, I always ask people to turn off their phone if the phone is still lit.
When it drives me nuts.
Started. Or otherwise, I just go and sit somewhere else because the light I find so distracting from somebody else's screen.
It is. But answer me this: why you haven't got the nuclear codes on your phone, right? You're not Putin or whatever, or Obama, who's running America, as we know, right? What is so important that you've got to keep? You've gone to a film, or you've gone even worse to a play. A play, for Christ's sake.
FOMO.
What?
It's all
FOMO.
about
Fear of missing out. I didn't know what that meant till the other day, by the way. I had no idea what FOMO meant.
No, FOMO
I thought it was a detergent. I thought it was a detergent advertised by Alan Freeman. Yeah. Graham Pack's point, which is quite interesting, this is a financial point. Big cinemas are suffering, some having to restructure. That means presumably financially restructure, as opposed to like bricks and mortar and everything like that.
I mean, I actually counted the number of people. I went in to see Fall Guy last Sunday afternoon at about 2:00, 3:00, which you would think might have been a sort of a day or an afternoon where there would have been a lot of people. And the screen probably held 200, maybe 250 seats, something like that. And I counted the number of people there, and there were only 30 of us.
Oh, God. Yeah. Jesus, how long can they keep going?
Yeah, I don't know.
How long can they keep going? We have Showbiz Royalty watching, by the way.
Oh, really?
One of my favorite people. I love this guy, Scott Harvey Mitchell. I love Scott. You know who he is. We send our love to you, Scott. You're a good guy. It's interesting. It's interesting. My one of my kids lives in America, as you know, one of my sons, and he phoned me up and he took the family off to see The Fall Guy. They loved it. Absolutely loved it. They thought it was great. They thought it was great, and it was busy. I think there's a much healthier atmosphere over there than there is sort of over here. Maybe it's more of a family thing. I don't know. Maybe the family unit's broken down. Who the hell knows? Graham Pack is been a bit previous. and said something that I was going to say. I finished season 2 of Only Murders in the Building. Absolutely loved it. It's on Disney. He's just watched season 3, which I have not yet launched into, because it's like, you know, once you pop, you just can't stop. And I know that I will be glued for 10 episodes. If you haven't seen this show and you're longing for something which is warm, exciting, beautifully acted, fabulous chemistry with the cast, Only Murders in the Building on Disney Plus. Use Chantal's advice. Take out a free thing, binge watch the whole thing, get the hell out of Dodge, because there's bugger all else to see on it. But it's great. Absolutely wonderful. Wonderful.
And it's sort of quite different. I mean, and when you get somebody like Steve Martin on screen, you're so excited just because it's him.
And Martin Short, for me, the one and also it's so interesting because the part that Selena Gomez, I don't know anything about Selena Gomez. It could have been such a boring role, and she brings so much. Shirley MacLaine's in it, for God's sake. Shirley MacLaine is in this show. Nathan, help.
Nathan Lane.
Nathan Lane playing a really nasty guy.
Yeah.
Really,
no, it's
wonderful.
It's great cast together.
Oh,
yeah.
God, it's
good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I absolutely love every single second of it, because they managed to get great comedy, great witticisms, and it's exciting. You actually want to know who did it. It's very clever, because that's hard to pull off. That's really hard to pull off.
Yeah.
You know.
Good.
You're reduced to I Married an Axe Murderer by Mike Myers, who I've never been a fan of. You know, I like Austin Powers, the first one, and that was kind of it. And so that's how hard it is to pull off, you know. Yeah.
Very good. Good. Well, I'm pleased that you're loving it, and Graham too. So that's great news.
Yeah. And Meryl Streep apparently is in series 3. Doesn't get much better.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I haven't read that.
Wow, Meryl Streep, for heaven's sake.
That's fantastic.
Still getting over her divorce from Dustin Hoffman. Anywho.
Don't, honestly, I can't watch that movie. It's so triggering. I'm honestly.
It was, it's like, it's horrible. It's horrible. Karen Shortland, hi Karen. Is anyone else watching A Small Light on UK TV drama? It's about Geese, I'm probably pronouncing this horribly wrong, I'm sorry. When she was helping Otto Frank and his family when they were in hiding. I think it's been good so far.
Yeah. It's we talked about it probably when it first came out about 6 or 9 months ago.
Okay.
On it, I can't remember which channel it was on first, but we did talk about it. I watched a couple of episodes, maybe 3 episodes. I don't think I finished it, but I enjoyed what I saw.
Do you remember? Do you remember? There was a terrible actress who had married a much older, very rich guy. This isn't a joke. This is true. I forgot.
Okay.
I've forgotten her name now. And, you know, he kept producing all these pop things. And she was also in TV in America. There was nothing over here. But in America, because he poured so much money into this pretty talentless woman. I mean, she was quite pretty, but, you know, wasn't great. Her name will come back eventually. For reasons that even God would struggle to understand. They did a Broadway production of the Anne Frank story, which stunk. If Jonathan was here, we'd be punching the screen at this point. It was so bad. And the woman couldn't act. And she's playing Anne Frank, for God's sake. And anyway, there's a scene where the German Nazis come in and they're searching for Anne Frank. And because the play was so bad, someone in the audience went, "She's up in the attic!"
Oh, dear.
I will remember. By the way, everybody loves you, Chantal, and I'm going to astound you now. In all the years we've been doing the various iterations of the Midday show, the highest numbers we've ever had today, ever.
Wow!
Ever. Congratulations to you. The record-breaking biggest numbers we've ever had, which goes back to my thing about entertainment and life give people what they want, not what you think they need.
Ah, indeed.
Well,
if you want something that's going to make you really angry,
I wake up.
Yeah, well, in that case, this is there'll be a walk in the park for you. But actually, I watched this program and I was so flipping furious at the end of it.
Okay.
And it's a documentary about somebody called Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, the guy who had to apologise about Colin. Yeah.
So Alex Jones.
About Sandy Hook. Alex Jones.
Sandy Hook. So very briefly, I mean, our American viewers and listeners will absolutely know who Alex Jones is. He runs a website called InfoWars, which is a sort of conspiracy theory news provider, but it's basically fake news. He's been in this conspiracy game for about 30 years.
Yep.
He basically flogs vitamins, sort of muscular, blokey, get it here first vitamins.
Yep. Kind of does
it by saying things that are incredibly inflammatory and basically untrue. Incredibly inflammatory, just like clickbait, but says, I'm providing you with real news. This is true. This is the truth. And he's most well known for basically telling everybody that 9/11 was a hoax, Sandy Hook, the killing of 20 children and 6 teachers in Pennsilvania, I think it was, about 10 or 12.
I thought it was Connecticut, but I might be going completely mad. It doesn't. Well, whatever it was a horrible, ghastly.
I think you're right. I think it's near Danbury, in which case it's Connecticut. Yeah,
I used to leave at Danbury Station back in the day when I had a life. Yeah, go on. What he said about Sandy Hook, by the way, which was when some little shits went and shot everybody up because they're raving mad little shits. They were all actors, and some of them weren't actually dead.
Yeah, he said.
I mean, that was just disgraceful. Anyway,
so this, in fact, is about the court case against him. So you hear about Sandy Hook. It isn't a retelling of the Sandy Hook story. It's the telling of the story about how Alex Jones ended up in court. Yeah,
I watched that live, not the documentary. I actually watched the whole court case.
You need to watch the documentary. It's I think it's a 2-hour doc. It came out yesterday or the day before, I think. It's on Sky and on Now, because that's their other service. I'm sure it'll be on all the networks in the US as well, or you'll find it on a network in the US, because it will be interesting to them as well as to a British audience. We're so lucky in many ways with the news provision that we get over here, and not constantly going down. But not constantly going down rabbit holes that don't exist in the way that Americans seem to get dragged into conspiracy theories way more easily than we do. Way more easily.
They do. You got Alex Jones, who I've followed. I don't mean I follow. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Stephen Crowder, who is huge, who I did follow, and now he's gone. I'm like, no, Mr. Crowder, you lost me, fella. You've lost me. And interestingly, to add exactly to what you're saying, Chantal, there was a sidekick on the Stephen Crowder's a huge YouTube channel, huge. When I say huge, he was offered a deal in excess of 80 million a year.
Wow.
A year, which he turned down and made I won't go into it. It's another story in itself. But he had a sidekick that I always liked, that I'm in now daily contact with, called Dave Landau, who's an American stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get him over here. And when Dave Landau suddenly disappeared, I said, what's going on? And when he explained what Stephen Crowder was really like and how he controlled the studio, Mr. Free Speech.
Yeah. And
Dave Landau had a light which told him to shut up and let Stephen Crowder do the punchline of a gag or something. I mean, it was beyond.
Wow, how extraordinary.
It was that bad. It was horrible. Anyway, I like Dave Landau a lot. Okay. Alex Jones.
Yeah,
here's the difference. Here is the difference between Britain, thank God at the moment, and the States. Alex Jones says some things which have a resonance of truth, and some things which are just start raving mad. Okay, and you'd think, it's no big deal. What do you think his daily turnover for merchandise is?
Well, I think we've had this conversation before. I mean, I've read some background material, and he's, I think, making something like 10 million a month or 10.
Yeah. On a good day, Alex Jones's merchandise, online merchandise, will make in excess of $250,000 per day.
Yeah.
Per day. On a good day, it hit $400,000.
Yeah.
Just his merchandise.
These are the vitamins. 80% of his merch is are these, muscular vitamin type things.
And t-shirts and hats and all the rest of the paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And I thought it's just Alex, in my ignorance, and I'm sure this comes out in the documentary, I thought it was just Alex Jones, sort of spouting off into a microphone and talking bollocks. No, he has a team of something like 100 people or 80 to 100. It's extraordinary. It's a huge enterprise. It's not one guy. So, what he said was disgusting.
Yeah. Well, in terms of Sandy Hook, there's been a recent poll. This was the thing that I found so frightening when I watched this documentary. It's been a recent poll that suggests that 25% of Americans believe Sandy Hook was a hoax. And that's...
Tell that to the parents.
Yeah.
Tell that to the mums and dads who've lost their children.
Yeah.
Come on.
Anyway, where this ends up, it ends up with the court case, which was decided, I think, 2 years ago. What happens today in real life is the decision by the judge as to whether he has to liquidate all his assets to pay the amount of money that he owes to the parents. And that's happening in an American court today.
Yeah.
So this, the Truth versus Alex Jones, is a really good setup to the story that's going to come out later on. And we'll find out whether he loses everything or not. So far in the last 2 years, he has not paid one dime.
He hasn't paid a dime. And there's a whole thing, I don't know if it's his wife or there's a whole, dirty deeds at the crossroads where he's avoiding being careful. I'm being careful because he's very litigious, but there's been some clever work that's been going on. The thing about him,
it's really good. I mean, I mean, some of the interviews with the parents are harrowing, but actually you hear nothing about the guy who was the perpetrator, nothing about how the children, none of that sort of stuff at all. It is purely about the Alex Jones factor. And as a factual documentary, it's really well made.
And it's on remind us where we can find it.
It's on Sky and Now.
And
in the US.
Now's worth getting, man.
Yeah. Probably.
The thing about Alex Jones, the interesting thing about him, he is incredibly persuasive.
Yeah.
He's very articulate.
Yeah.
And his whole timbre of his voice and everything is very commanding.
Yeah.
And that's how he does it. And just like here, there are millions of very disaffected people.
Yeah. No, it's
all
here,
especially in London.
It's talking about, them, that we are being controlled by them. Basically, it's very anti-government. It's also very anti-Jewish. I mean, he takes a go at nearly everybody, takes a pop at nearly everybody. But it is really dangerous stuff when you just undermine everything and just destroy from the inside out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, World War II. Heading to World War III.
Let's hope not.
Well, it's already started. You know that. I know that. It's already started. It's just a guerrilla war with nobody wearing uniforms. That's the difference. Chantal, it's been wonderful as it always is. Thank you so
next week.
much. And congratulations, record numbers. Thank you, everybody. That is I'm not Screen Queen. I wish I was, but sadly not. Record numbers. Absolutely a dream come true. Thank you so much. We do our best. We're a little outfit. We're certainly not like Alex Jones. We're a little tiny outfit, just trying to entertain, trying to inform, but mostly entertain. And for you to come somewhere and you can hear stuff that you can't hear elsewhere because we're not censored and we don't care. We just tell it as it is. Bless you all over the world, especially everybody in America. Thanks to you, everybody in France who I know watch, everybody in Spain I know is watching, all across the UK and up in Scotland as well, obviously. I'll be back on Monday with Neil Longilong. Until then, have a lovely weekend. I keep thinking it's January or February. I keep looking. I can't believe we're halfway through June. Give me a break. Take care. Stay out of trouble.